Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're watching from. I'm Debbie Echo, your discovery coach, founder of your discovery coach, where we help women who are dealing with, invisibility, narrative, and, just stress of being a mom and then losing yourself. We help women, come out from that invisibility narrative. We help women, deal with the fact that you're a mom, but you're not just a mom. You're something more than a mom. So yeah, welcome again. We're gonna be in the next 30, 45 minutes. We're just going to be talking about breaking free from thinking, from overthinking trap, not from thinking. Everybody needs to think, right? We all need our brains to think. But breaking free from the overthinking trap and how to reclaim your peace of mind. But before I go on, how's your week been? It's a Friday, well, it's a Friday if you're watching on a Friday. Well, how's your week been? How have you been? How has your spirit been? How's your body been? Have you been exercising? Have you been doing all the things that we've been talking about in our lives? Have you been finding, less stress in your days, just because you're finding reading, because you're designing a life that, speaks to you? Are you saying more no's when you need to say no? Are you saying yes when you need to say yes? What are you doing differently? How have these lives, made sense for you? How has it, changed your perspective? It'd be nice to hear stories from our viewers and hear what it is that you are up to. So before that's brief introduction, and my mission to help stay-at-home moms is real because I know the burnout can be real. I know that I know that the burnout can be real. I know that we struggle with, identity. We struggle a lot with, who we are. You're pouring in so much. You're pouring in so much into your family. You're pouring in so much into the people around you. You're pouring into other people so much. But what about you? Let this 30 to 45 minutes be your, or 1 hour. Um, Let this be your call or your reminder that you also need to fill yourself up, that you also need to um, drink, and be satisfied before you can, water others. Yeah, so let's just go on. And today we're going to be talking about overthinking. We're going to be talking about how it affects our mental health, how it affects our well-being, how we have and how it affects even the people around us. Sometimes it's not just about us. You don't even realize that it's affecting your relationships, your friendships, your relationship with your husband or your children. Is the Sometimes, a lot of stifling comes when we stifle our children. It comes from we have overthought things. So we're just going to be looking at that and seeing how we can break free from the cycle. We can reclaim our own peace of mind. We can break free from the trap that overthinking. So overthinking is actually a trap. It is a trap. And many of us, especially moms, we fall into it. We think about, oh, so there's the mental overload of being a mom. That one is real. You need to go out in the morning by 8. So you start to say, okay, if I need to go out by 8, then you backtrack. Okay, by 7, the kid should be in the car by, how many hours. You check how many hours it is just so that you're not late. So there's that one first. Then there's overthinking it. What ifs? The all what if, and then it comes in a way that you stifle your children, so you're not allowing them to express them, so you're not allowing them to learn, you're not allowing them to live, you're not allowing them to play, because overthinking can actually do that. So it's a trap, and a lot of times we moms fall into it. And you know there's so much noise in our head, there's so much going on in our head. We are the ones that can be cooking, and at the same time we are doing homework with the children. That's another topic. But beyond that, beyond the mental overload that comes with being a mom, we're also prone to overthinking situations and issues. So there was a part time in my life where, yes, I would say, I'm not guiltless. I'm not talking to you from a place of perfection. I have been a victim of overthinking. I have overthought thoughts, and I recognized where mine was coming from. There was a time when something was supposed to happen to me and it didn't happen. I'll just give the story. So when I was much younger, I was supposed to get married to a particular person, and he died, unfortunately. And I realized that, when I get too close to someone, I don't want you to stay more than 5 hours, 6 hours without calling me. And that was my own story. Like, if you'd stayed 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, okay, 5 hours was okay. But let's not start going into 12 hours, half a day, 24 hours, you're not calling, and we're supposed to, be in a relationship. I'm like, oh gosh, has it happened again? So my mind starts to overthink, okay, what if, and then the what ifs and what ifs. And I just realized that that wasn't helping. So there was this particular day my husband went out. I don't know if he didn't have network. I don't know what it was, but I just realized that he hadn't called. I called the police, so I was that frantic. It wasn't enough. They say wait for 24 hours before you file missing person report, but no, I didn't call the emergency line. I just called the 101. But what am I trying to say? Overthinking can make you to do irrational things, take irrational decisions, and that's what overthinking does for us. So I've shared my story. I've told you, this is how I overanalyze. So it's not every situation that you find yourself overanalyzing. That's the thing. So it's not like you're constantly overanalyzing every situation. It's not like you're constantly. There are some things that are just your trigger. There are some things that this is what will make me to call the police, for instance. This is what will make me start to panic. This is what will make me frantic. This is what may take me on a spiral, loop of thoughts. So these are the things, there are these are things that we're going to be looking at. So you will have your own trigger, I will have my own trigger, everybody would have a trigger that um makes them to overthink. But let's just go on. So I'm going to guide you through understanding the roots of overthinking, the impact it has on your mind and your body. So overthinking doesn't just impact your mind, it also impacts your body. And also not just telling you how overthinking impacts you, we're also going to be sharing practical tools that you can use to break free from it. There are practical tools that you can use. And then we're going to explore a few of the spiritual tools that can help you to tap into your intuition and trust your inner guidance. So let's go on. What is overthinking? We're going to define overthinking as, when you mentally dwell on past events. So remember my story, how I mentally dwelt on the event of, what had happened to me when I was much younger. And I was in my mid-20s at the time. And you dwell. So it's a fleeting thought. You're constantly thinking about it. You sit down in it, you dwell in it, you marinate in it, and you mentally dwell on past events. You worry excessively. So it's not, oh, I'm just worried that my kids will not have lunch to eat. Or, just we're talking of excessive worrying, and excessive worrying about future possibilities. So things have not yet even happened. You're already worrying about the outcome. You don't even know what the future is holding for you. You don't know what the outcome is, but you are excessively worried about the future, excessively worried about your old age. I'm not talking about setting goals. I'm not talking about visualizing about your life. I'm talking of worrying excessively that, you're afraid. You can't think about the future and think, oh, okay, I got this, or, God has me, or, I'm not afraid to, go into, but you are so afraid of future possibilities. You become consumed with hypothetical outcomes. Your number of what is so much, is greater than, you know I can do it. So you're just, what if I fail? What if they judge me? What if they laugh at me? What if I can't, I can't do it? The what ifs become so excessive, and your mind then goes into overdrive. So you can start your worrying journey or your overthinking journey in the UK, and then you end up in Antarctica because you have gone on an overdrive. You've gone on 6 planes, you've gone on 4 boats, you've gone on trains, you've just gone into the car and you're going and you're going and you're going and you're going. You see, you don't even know where to stop. So someone makes a statement to you, for instance, and the person just say, okay, she doesn't like me, and then your thought spirals. Okay, she doesn't like me because, and then you go back to a situation that happened when you were small, and that was how when I was 3 years old this happened, and then you go back again into the future. So you're not even your thoughts don't understand what is being thought, because you're like, okay, so we've gone to she doesn't like me to something happened to me when I was 3, and then okay, that means something is going to happen to me now, and then oh, maybe it's because I'm big, maybe because I'm, you start to think it's just out of control. It goes into overdrive, it spins in circles, so you're not even able to find where that loop ends, so it continues over and over and over and over and over again. It makes you feel anxious, it makes you feel stressed, and it makes you unable to make decisions. When you overthink, it's very hard to just make one decision, so to move on, okay, I'm going somewhere this evening, for instance. Let's give an example, use that as an example. I'm going somewhere and I cannot decide because I'm overthinking. Okay, if I wear this dress, they would say red doesn't go for this occasion. Okay, let me not wear red. Let me wear, if I wear black now, am I mourning somebody? Okay, let me wear blue. That blue dress, somehow it is somehow on me, and then you are overthinking and overthinking. The place you're supposed to go to is at 6. You can't make a decision because decision paralysis. You're overthinking it. Wear the dress and go. But you cannot just wear the dress and go. You overthink it to the extent that you may even decide, okay, I'm not going again. I don't have anything to wear. Meanwhile, your wardrobe is brimming with clothes. But you can't make decisions. You struggle to make decisions. As simple as the decision of, this is what I'm going to wear today. It's hard because you are overthinking everything. You're overthinking, how will I look in this? How will I look in that? You overthink even the simplest situations. Let's go on. I'm here for you. It says overthinking is an emotional and mental treadmill. You're constantly going. It's a hamster wheel, constantly, but there's no way out of it. You see, you yourself, you can't see the way out of it because you're just over and over and over again, constantly moving, never getting anywhere. It can lead to self-doubt, because when you don't make decisions quickly, when you can't make decisions quickly, when you cannot move from A to B in terms of making a decision, self-doubt comes in. You start to doubt yourself. You see, the example I gave, for instance, was you decide, okay, I'm not going for the function again because I don't have anything to wear. Maybe the function is very important, or maybe the function is just, somewhere where you're supposed to network and, make, get contacts for your business, whatever it is. But you're just, and then you start, that's how the other time, you see, it becomes a pattern. It becomes a pattern. It becomes something that you are doing often. And then when you don't, when you are not able to make decision over one small thing, and the next small thing, it accumulates, and then it makes you, doubt yourself. So you're like, I don't even know self. It makes you to doubt yourself. You start to procrastinate things. You start to have emotional exhaustion. So you can't do anything. You're emotionally exhausted. And that's what overthinking does. Is there anybody that can relate with any of the things I'm saying? Because I think it's a human problem. It's a woman, most women do it, but it's a human problem. And until we are aware, until when we recognize the things that are going on in our minds, in our lives, we can't put an end to it. So some of the causes of, overthinking are stems from deep-seated fears. Trauma is a very big cause for overthinking. Deep-seated, you don't even, sometimes it's even hard for you to, trace where these fears are coming from. It's so hard. I like, obviously, I've been able to do a bit of work on myself, and I knew where my fears, for when the night I called my husband, called police for my husband, and I knew where the fears were coming from. I knew it was just because I had gone through a traumatic experience, and I didn't like being ghosted. That's the word. I just didn't like being ghosted. I just didn't like you going off and not telling me where you're going. So I felt, that was me tracing it. So deep-seated fears. What are the fears? What are the things that have happened to you as a child? What are the things that have happened to you in your upbringing? What are the things that, are there, bring up your trust issues, for instance, bring up your fear issues, bring up your issues of, doubt. These are the causes of, overthinking. So it's not just I want to overthink. Sometimes you really need to dig deep, and that's why at your discovery coach we help women. We sit down with you, we talk about the root causes of these things that would hold you bound. We sit down with you. We have a personal development plan for you. We have, you can come and you can talk, because sometimes even finding it out yourself becomes difficult, because you are the one in that loop, you are the one in that treadmill, you're the one in that circle, so you're not able to see, because you are the one running and running and running and running. So someone on the outside, is better able to see things from a different perspective, because you may even see your own perspective as awareness. Meanwhile, awareness that is leading to nowhere. So you're seeing it as, okay, if I sit down and I think deeply about this thing, I'm reflecting on my life, I'm getting, but you're not going anywhere. You can see for yourself that you have tried to break from this habit, you have tried to stop the overthinking, you have tried the loop, but you are still in it, you are still swimming in it. If you need to seek help, do seek help, because these are the things that keep you down and keep you small. Fear of judgment, fear of failure. These are root causes of overthinking. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, perfectionism, and everything has to be good, everything has to be nice, everything has to be perfect. Bible says, I love the Bible a lot. Bible says that if you wait for perfect conditions, you will not get anything done. I think it was the Message rendition. You won't get anything done. If the farmer is just waiting for perfect, they won't plant and they won't sow. So perfect conditions is an illusion. For you to wait for perfection is an illusion. It keeps you trapped. It keeps you small. It keeps you not being able to move, because perfection is an illusion. There's nothing, as far as I keep saying, as far as you are alive, there's room for improvement. There's the best car in this world. There's still room for improvement, because the human mind was not made to be static. So whatever, even if you start and your first cake, for instance, or your first food, for instance, is not that great, there's room for improvement. So for you to say that I want to get to, that perfect place, I want to be perfect, is telling yourself that you are ready to die, because as far as you are alive, there is room for improvement, there is room for growth, there is room for continuous improvement. So don't stay in that trap. Don't stay in that trap of perfection. If you it causes you to overthink. So for instance, I'll use myself again as an example. When I'm doing things like Canva and trying to choose designs, I realize that I can spend 4 5 hours on one design. And why? Choosing design is an overthinking trigger for me, because as I've chosen this one, I will still find another one that I like. And then I will stay there choosing design. Meanwhile, there's a to-do list. There's a list of things to do for the day. I might find out that. So, it's being aware. And I realized that, okay, it came from a place, because from a place of things just have to be perfect. So I've started to learn and I've started to do. I don't have to wait for perfection. I don't have to wait to know the whole psychology textbook, or I don't have to wait to know the everything in the world before I come and I rise and I give volume to my voice. I don't have to wait. And that's what we do. And that's what keeps us down. And then you keep waiting and you keep waiting. And because perfect conditions are just an illusion, you will never get those perfect conditions. So what's that thing that is making you stall? Let's just continue. It says uncertainty about the future. When you're uncertain, you're just uncertain. You haven't, we've talked about designing a life and designing rhythms. You haven't. I feel like uncertainty about the future comes from a place of unintentionality, because there's seed time and there's harvest time. If you do the work, you will get the result. So if you're intentionally spending your time in every single day, like every day you are doing things that pertain to your growth. I don't Yes, uncertainty about the future can be in two ways, because obviously nobody knows tomorrow, nobody knows what will happen tomorrow. But what I'm talking about is in the way you are living your life. If you're living your life with intention, you're living your life with intentionality. I don't see and I don't believe how it will go, how things, things will happen. But I don't believe that it will happen in such a way that you have no control, that you just spiral out of control. Because when you're intentional about your growth, you're intentional about your mental growth, you're intentional about your physical growth. It's just like you're constantly, doing the right things, eating the right food, doing the right exercises, you're doing what you need to do. It's a path that you have taken that can lead you somewhere. I believe that you will get there. But when you live your life to autopilot, it's a recipe. It's just a recipe for disaster. So it can help you, it can cause you to become so, you're constantly thinking. In that time you're using to think, if you sit down and make an intentional growth plan for yourself, you probably would do better. But let's just continue. It's a natural response to situations when we feel out of control. We overthink when we feel I want you to hear the word feel. It's not that you are out of control, but it's the feeling that you feel. So yes, sometimes it's not the things that are in focus. It's the way you feel. It's your perception about the way you feel. So for instance, two people are in a bad situation. One sees it as an opportunity for growth, and another sees it as egbami, my life has ended, my life is dead. Oh, everything has come to an end. Perception matters. I keep telling myself, and I keep telling people who care to listen to me, perception is such a big thing for your mind, because you are feeling that things are out of control, but some other person will take that same situation and use it to even sell a product, for instance, or even better their lives, or even make some meaning out of it. So perception. When Job lost everything, he didn't go blaming the whole world. He had a perception. He even though yes, he had said that what I fear has greatly come upon me, but he didn't curse God and die like he was advised. He didn't go spiraling off out of control. Perception is big in the way you handle the things that you feel are out of your control, because when you see that whatever you see, that's how you react. Your reaction is based on what you see. So yes, you feel that things are out of control, and then you start to overthink. Your mind starts to go round and round and round and round. You just spiral out. I'm telling you that one of the greatest factors for growth will be emotional intelligence and mental resilience. Because if you don't have mental resilience, you can't bounce back. You can't fail out. You see, I might be doing something and I'm thinking I'm doing well. Somebody comes, gives me a review and says you've done a terrible job. Oh, what's the natural human reaction? I'm not doing it again. I'm not writing the next book. I'm not doing this, just because I can't bounce back. So bouncing back, mental resilience is part of emotional intelligence. You need it, because what you see, what you feel, very important for your growth. But that's not where we are. I think I've gone a little bit out of my text. Let's come back to overthinking. When you start to believe that you need to get everything right, it gives you the fuel for overthinking. I have to do everything right. My children, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do then you start, you are orchestrating. So there are natural consequences. Okay, my child, for instance, I give an example again. This morning, this is make the rule day in your school, so you're allowed to wear your school and your house dress. You're even allowed to wear your pajamas. You're allowed to paint your nails. You're allowed to do anything you like. So she chose to wear her dress, but when she was going out, she ran outside with her slippers. She forgot. She was so excited. She just ran out, and she runs way ahead of me. When I got to the bus to the play park where she was waiting for me, I saw she was in Crocs. My mommy instincts wanted to tell me to go back to tell her to wear shoes. I said, no, Debbie, why? It starts overthinking that, when they get to school, they will call me a bad mom. They will say that I'm not responsible. She ran out of the house with her Crocs. What's the natural consequences? Either they tell her to, not do it again, or they tell her off, or or she goes into reflection, it's her consequence. Why am I carrying it for her? I now had to stop that thought. That thought was about, this, what? So today, that's part of what we're going to learn. Stop those thoughts. You can't fix everyone. You can't fix your husband. You can't fix your friends. You can't even fix the whole world. Christ started with 12. So the overthinking will not even bring any result for you. Let's just continue. We've defined overthinking. We've talked about the symptoms of overthinking, which is ruminating on the past, focusing on mistakes or missed opportunities. You made a mistake. Somebody asked you for a proposal. Somebody asked you for something. You made a mistake. Okay, I have made a mistake. What is the learning point? Don't stay there and marinate in that mistake and say, I will never get anything right. The kind of self-talk we do when we miss a mark. I will never get anything right. This thing is too hard. It's too difficult. Tell me any great person that hasn't made a mistake. Tell me any great speaker that hasn't made a mistake. Tell me any great baker that hasn't made a mistake. Tell me any great tailor that hasn't made a mistake. The difference between them and you who would sit on the sidelines, that they get up and they learn from their mistakes. So overthinking comes ruminating on the past, worrying about the future, imagining the worst case scenarios. We're going to see how to deal with these things. Struggling with indecision. What are the common patterns of overthinking? Constantly replaying past conversations. Somebody had a conversation with you in 2017. You are still having a conversation. You have not ended that conversation. The person has moved on. The person is probably even in Australia. She has moved out of where you're living, but you're still sitting down there having that conversation with that person. You're still overthinking it. Constantly replaying past conversations, constantly wondering what you should have said or done differently. Or maybe if I had said it this way, then I wouldn't have. Or maybe if I had done it this way, then it wouldn't have happened that way. You're imagining every possible negative outcome. Hear what I said, every possible negative outcome. Your imagination is not even on the positive outcome. I'll give you an example of how I dealt with it before I go on, because the examples are there, but I just want to give this example right now. There was one day I was driving in England. For me, when I started driving, it was quite difficult because they drive on, I call it, on the wrong side of the road, because in Nigeria, we drive on the, see, I don't even know my left from my right. We drive on the right side of the road and they drive on the left side of the road. So I used to say, what if I just, enter into the wrong road, enter into the wrong lane by mistake and something happens? And I had to stop those thoughts. I said, for every 10,000 people that get home safely, we only hear of the one that has an accident. Why do I have to be the one? Why can't I be the 10,000 people that get home safely? For every 400 people's children in your children's school, maybe one or two of them have bad news or something. Why do you want to be why are you constantly dwelling on the exception? People go to work and come back, you don't hear about it. The day that somebody went to work and didn't come back, that's what makes news in your head. You need to be careful how you ruminate on the things that are wrong, because the news will never make it for the 10 million or the 10,000 that got back safely. The news will not make it for the 400 kids in your children's school that are safe and are sound. The news will make it if one child crossed the road and then something happened. That's when the news will make it. So ask yourself, see the bigger picture in this whole statistics of things that are happening. What's the statistics of people driving on the other side of the road? Since I got here, I've only heard of one. So why should I be the one? You need to be able to stop it, track it down. So when those voices come, oh, you're entering the road now, you're driving, you need to be careful. Yes, I agree, I have that conversation back with him. I say, yes, I need to be careful, but I will get back home safely. In these 8 years that I've been here, people have gotten back home safely. So why would I be the exception? I'm not saying don't, take safety seriously, but it's the voice of overthinking. It's the voice of staying in that place where there's so much negativity that I'm trying to deal with. Negative thoughts have a way of depressing you. It has a way of depressing you, dampening your mood, causing you not to be a happy place for your children or your family. causing you not to even be a happy place for yourself. You can't even spend time with yourself. You don't have what it takes to sit down and spend time with yourself because you are constantly unhappy and you need to come out of that place. Constantly depressed. It's what overthinking does. Oh, I have only 30 minutes, so I'm just going to go right ahead. We've talked about how overthinking causes inaction and emotional drain. Overthinking is a mental and emotional drain affecting overall well-being. So when you overthink, you're not helping your emotional health. When you overthink, you're not helping your emotional capacity. And when you're not emotionally stable, when you're not emotionally healthy, you're prone to making unhealthy decisions. You're prone to making decisions that are not helpful for your spirit, your soul, and your body. You see what they call emotional eating, stress eating. Even if you went the other way and you say okay, you don't stress eat, but when you are unhappy, you starve yourself. There are two extremes. You either starve yourself or you overeat. So sometimes, often, our weight problems or whatever problems are in movement, problems from not moving, not doing exercise, not doing the things that are good for our physical health, comes from the fact that we are emotionally weak, we're emotionally unhealthy. So let's take these things into consideration. Let's look at these things and see how can we help ourselves. Let's go on. We're just talking about the psychological and emotional impact of overthinking. We've talked about mental health consequences. It's such a big thing. Overthinking leads to anxiety, it leads to depression, it leads to stress, it leads to burnout. It keeps us stuck in a loop of worry. It keeps us afraid. It keeps us it prevents us from living freely. Overthinking. Okay, if I wear this dress now, everybody will be looking at me. Please, nobody's even looking at you. Really, they are not. Even if they look, you're not. They are also doing their own bout of overthinking. They are also having their own worries. So then nobody's going to go home and say, "I passed 70 people." How many of you go home and say, "I passed 70 people today"? And I remember what all the 70 people wore. I remember what they did. I went to the supermarket. I went to the market, and I remember you're a fleeting thought in somebody else's head. You're a fleeting thought. They might even look at it and say, "Oh, this girl is fine." Or whatever. But whatever they said, they're not saying it to you. So why are you thinking for the person who is thinking? Let's get out of it because it drains, it stresses. These are the things that will cause you not to become the better version of yourself. It will not help you to grow. Emotional consequences. Overthinking often leads to emotional burnout. It leaves you feeling drained. You don't know why you're constantly tired. You don't know why, your mind is constantly alert. Some noise, small noise, just passes. Hey, they've come. One day, shock. Every time you're fretting. It doesn't keep you in a place where you can receive help. It doesn't keep you in a place where you can receive growth. It doesn't keep you in a place where you can be free to meditate, to think, to not overthink, to think thoughtful, meaningful thoughts. What are the physical symptoms? Tension headaches. If you're always having tension headaches, maybe you should go and check this out. Tension headache, muscle tightness, sleep. Somebody will say, "Oh, I can't sleep." Sleep disturbances comes from anxiety. Comes from overthinking. You can't even put your head down in the night and sleep. You're already thinking of something that's going to happen next year. The future. If you believe in God, your future is in God's hands. Let it there. Leave it there. You take it there. You bring it up again. You cuddle it. You say, "God, are you sure you've got this?" You can't get this more than Him. But that's just you're constantly in that place of fight or flight. You're either fighting or you are flying. You can't stay on a thing. You can't be on a thing because you're constantly flying. You can't see anything through. You have this habit of, I can't, just, I can't do it. It keeps you down. It keeps you small. Now let's break this cycle together. The first step is your awareness. First step is in breaking overthinking cycle is awareness. You can't interrupt thought process if you are not aware that you are in it. So start noticing when your mind begins to race. Start to notice. Take into, if you need to journal it, journal it. If you need to, if you need to journal it, journal it. If you need to keep a log of your thoughts, your unhelpful thoughts, keep that log. If you need to, do it. You see, when I met someone before I became a coach, and when my kids were still very little, I used to talk. There was this lady in there was this lady I used to talk to in the place where I volunteer, and the lady said, keep a journal of your. I was just telling her about a pattern. She said, keep a journal. Then I didn't understand. I was like, journal. I keep a journal. I've always kept a journal since I was a teenager. So keep me a journal. But when she now said keep a journal of the occurrences, I didn't understand then. But when I started to grow, when I started to, connect with who Debbie is, I realized that you cannot break anything that you cannot see. You can't break anything that you're not aware of. You cannot break anything if you don't understand the patterns. You cannot break anything if you don't understand what is the trigger. So for instance, if let's say for instance, sugar is a trigger, that's just an example. Let's say for instance, sugar is a trigger, and you don't know that sugar is a trigger, and you keep on eating sugar and eating sugar. Every time you just break out in hives, you break out in allergic reactions, you break out in something you don't even know, but you just keep eating sugar, and you don't even connect it. You can't deliver yourself. I had a friend who had an allergy reaction, and until she went to do a full test, they had to eliminate this, eliminate that. But she had tried this, she had tried that, she had tried that. It's like giving yourself a diagnosis, telling yourself, where does this thing come from? Sometimes you may be able to do it yourself. Sometimes you may not be able to do it yourself. Sometimes you need help. You need professional help. And there's no crime in asking for help. No crime one bit. Some of us, we would rather, spend money on things that are perishable, but our mental health, the things that will cause us to blossom, to grow, to stop cycles of that keep us trapped and no longer serve us, we can't, we can't pay for it. So you need to have that awareness. And it's not something we can deal with in 30 minutes or in the next 20 minutes when we need to round off. You can't interrupt the thought process if you're not aware that you're in it. So start noticing. Start noticing. Ask yourself, my recent situation of overthinking, what started it? Some people, as soon as you make a comment about their weight, that's how their overthinking starts. That's how their overthinking starts. They just and that's how, especially if it's their husband that made it. Say, oh, he doesn't like me again. Oh, he's seen other women. Oh, they are thin women on the road. Oh, his secretary is so thin. And he's now eyeing her. You have overthought it. You have gone far. The guy just said, babe, please watch this way too. Just watch it. He even joked about it. He didn't even say no. He didn't say it to slight you. Then you start to overthink it. Be aware. Write it down. So when this next time that thing happens, pause and pivot. What do I mean? When you catch yourself overthinking, the first step is to pause, take a deep breath, and bring your attention to the present moment. So he said that you are adding weight. Don't pause, just pause. Don't start going to the women in the office. The women in the office might be even fatter than you. You don't even know. Maybe he had already sacked the secretary and you didn't even know that he has had, or whatever it is. But that's just on a lighter note. But pause. Bring yourself to the present moment. Ask yourself questions. Is it true? You yourself, you know the truth about your situation. You know what the comment was all about. Then pivot. Pivot by shifting your thoughts to something that's grounding or calming. Think of something that is grounding or calming. Focus your breath. You could be focusing on your breath. I didn't even realize that some of us we don't even know how we breathe. You don't know your breathing pattern because you're constantly in a rush. Stop. Feel the rising of your chest and the falling of your chest. Just feel yourself breathe in and breathe out. Look at something beautiful. Maybe a picture of your baby of your child when she was a baby. I love my children babies pictures. I think they were so cute. Maybe I'm biased because they're my kids, obviously. But repeat a calming affirmation. Breathe, pause, pivot. Let's go on because my time is almost up. I have only 15 minutes left. It says mindfulness and present moment awareness. Let's not continuously live in the future. You're constantly living in, I can't wait for my children to leave the house. I can't wait for my children to do this. I can't wait for them to grow. I can't wait. Be in the present. Be in the present. I can't wait for them for the firstborn to do this. I can't wait for them to be 18. When you cannot wait, you lose the moments with your children. You lose the moments of your life. Every moment is something to be present in. Every moment of your life is be present, be mindful. When your mind wants, I'm not saying don't have a vision for your life, but in that vision, be present. You are still living, you are here. It's not yet 19th July, it's still 18th July. Stay in 18th July and do the things for 18th July that makes 18th July great, because it's every day you do the things that are, for every day you do the things, it culminates, it has a compound effect. So it's not a one-off thing. Be in the present moment. Don't judge yourself. Don't say, oh, and that's how you said I'm fat, and then it's just because. No judgment. Be present without judgment. When you are mindful, you observe your thoughts without getting consumed by them. When you are mindful, you observe your thoughts. You don't get consumed by it. Observing your thoughts and being consumed by your thoughts are two different things. Cognitive reframing. I'll call this the worst case scenario. What's the worst that can happen? When you catch yourself overthinking, ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? It's important to reframe your thoughts. For instance, what if I made the wrong choice? Reframe it to, I trust myself to make a best choice and I can handle whatever comes next. And if that doesn't even happen, ask yourself, okay, what's the worst? What's the worst? When you are able to bring out the worst, bring out the possible worst situations, and you then realize that it's not even that bad. Okay, I have a presentation, I forget my lines. What's the worst that can happen? I have something to do. I have a presentation, I have an interview, and then I forget how to answer the questions the way I practice. What's the worst that can happen? That for me had helped me so much. Or sometimes I count to five, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and on one I take action for whatever I want to do. You can set a timer if you find yourself struggling to make decisions. Yesterday I went for a volunteering role, and then we're asked to sort. So they asked us to throw away things that were not good, but everything looked good to me. And see, decision also comes in little ways. So I was like, I don't know what to throw away. But immediately that they said the time was almost up, so the lady now said, 15 minutes more, we need to close this. And please, have you guys sorted out? I just realized that I can make decisions in 15 minutes. Sometimes you need to give yourself a deadline to make a decision. Give a deadline to make a decision. Tell yourself, okay, by 1 o'clock, I'm done with this task and I'm moving on. Because when you don't give yourself decision, you find out that you are still on one thing, choosing one font, choosing one dress, choosing one this, choosing one that. Give yourself a deadline, because when the deadline comes, you need to move on to the next thing, and make it strict for yourself. So how does let's look at the worst case scenario technique. It says, how does this work? It says, acknowledge your fear. So I'm not asking you to live in denial, but acknowledge that fear. Overthinking often stems from the fear of uncertainty or fear of failure. The first step is to acknowledge. Ask, what's the worst that can happen? Actively ask yourself, what are the worst possible outcome in this situation? You may immediately think of an unlikely or a dramatic scenario, but this process helps you to confront the fear heads on and make it feel less overwhelming. Do a reality check. Once you identify the worst case scenario, assess how likely it is to happen. So you have done the worst case scenario. How likely is it to happen? You will often find out that the outcome is highly unlikely or even manageable. So when you do that, you're able to give that fear, you're able to address that fear. You're able to, look that fear in the face and say, okay, so this happens. But it also gives you tools to deal with the things that may happen. And funny enough, half of the time, 90% of the time, those things don't happen, because it's usually our mind and our perception. So focus on what you can control instead of going on and on about something you can't control. For instance, last week Friday live, I was beaten blue black by technology. My camera for some reason wasn't working. And I wasn't going to sit down here and start going on and on and on about how the camera wasn't working. Oh, we move. Focus. That was out of my control. And we during the week we tried to sort it out. We tried to repair what needed to repair. We tried to look at it, but focus on what's in your control. Mitigate the consequences. If the worst case scenario does happen, it even helps you to it gives you an ability to handle it better. So it may not happen, but if it happens, it gives you the ability to handle it better. What are the benefits of doing this worst case scenario technique? It says it reduces fear. It promotes rational thinking, so you're able to think rationally. So overthinking is what makes you go on a spiral. But you're able to think rationally. You're able to build your confidence. You're able to encourage action. Instead of just sitting down there and saying, "Oh, let me just, I can't," or you're able to spur yourself into action. Another perspective on overthinking, or another thing we can do for overthinking is being is a spiritual perspective, staying in silence. Some of us constantly have to have the radio on, have to have TV on, have to have everything on. While those things in themselves are not harmful, but give yourself a space for silence, a space for you can sit down, everywhere is quiet. And that's why people say get up very early in the morning. Before, I know it's hard, get up in the morning before your children wake up. Get up, or when they've all slept, even if it's 5 minutes, practice sitting down in silence. Practice tuning into your own intuition. Your intuition is wisdom. Practice it. Don't drown out the voice of intuition with noise around you. Children are already boisterous as it is, and we love them for that. Your day is already full with the sounds of joy, or children chuckling and laughing. But can you find a time in the day, stillness, sit down and be still? Trust your intuition. We've talked about mindfulness, talked about journaling. I cannot overemphasize the importance of journaling. It helps you to bring everything out, to bear it all out. And just sit down and pray, sit down and meditate. These are the things that will help you. You're spiraling out of control. And if you think that, okay, you are here, you're thinking, oh, I do these things, I try to do these things, but for some reason, my fear is rooted in things that I don't even understand. My fear is rooted in I just don't know where these fears are coming from. I'm constantly afraid. I'm constantly startled. I'm constantly, stifled. I can't take decisions. Book a one-on-one with me. It's something that we can sit down. It's something that we can talk about. It's something that we can delve into. Because sometimes we find ourselves going around in circle. Another year will go. Another month will go. Another, day will go. But don't let yourself remain the same because you're afraid to call out and ask for help. You are afraid to just find help for yourself, find help for your soul. You're afraid to even be vulnerable. Being vulnerable is a gift you can give to yourself, and is something that you will need to do. You tell yourself the hard truth, you tell yourself cut truth. You sit down with someone, you sit down with a coach, you sit down, and then decipher, dissect what the problem is. It's a very good place to, because the honest truth is that the time wastes for no one. Every minute you spend in the decision, every minute you spend in the what ifs, every minute you spend spiraling out of control, every minute you spend in the hamster wheel, it's a moment in your life where you could have moved forward. So what's your decision today? I want to thank every one of you. Didi, Scholastica, Bukola, Ayo, Kola, Wole. I want to thank all of you for being on the live stream today. I'm sorry I didn't acknowledge you as you entered, but I am so grateful that because of you, I am here, and I don't take your time for granted. I promised this was going to be a 45-minute session, and I don't take your time for granted. I don't take your growth for granted. If there's anything that I want to see in the women that I speak to, in the women that I talk to, in the women that I relate to, is that we have, intentional growth, fundamental growth, growth that out astounds us. Sorry, English is not your mate. Astounds us. Growth that, you're not keeping yourself small. You're not keeping yourself locked up. There's so much potential in you. There's so much you can do. There's so much you can become. Things that have happened to us in the past are not our fault, but from now, everything that happens to us is no longer anybody's fault. You have the knife, you have the yam, let's put it that way, because you can take your own growth into your own hand. You can tell yourself, I refuse to sit down on the sidelines. I refuse to sit down and, everything's life is passing me by. Basically, you're only seeing your children grow. Are you growing? This is my call to you. Thank you, and thank you, and thank you. And I'll see you again next week, Friday, 12 o'clock. Have an amazing day.